Donald Trump is saying, if Nigeria cannot protect Christians, we are going to move in viciously, and we are going to do so to protect Christians. And I think Trump is being advised that the Nigerian government is working softly on this issue because President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a Muslim, because Vice President Shetima is also a Muslim, and that if it were different, they would behave differently. But from where I sit, that is not necessarily the case.
If the Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians, the USA will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria. We're going to do things to Nigeria that Nigeria is not going to be happy about, and may very well go into that now disgraced country, guns a-blazing, to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible, horrible atrocities. I'm hereby instructing our Department of War to prepare for possible action. If we attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet, just like the terrorist thugs attack our cherished Christians. These are cherished people. These are great people. Leave them alone. Warning, the Nigerian government better move fast before it's too late. If they don't, there's going to be hell to pay.
Let's pause right there. Trump says if Nigeria can't protect Christians, he's moving in viciously. Now, when an American president says viciously, you better believe that means more than prayers. That means oil, influence, and boots on somebody's soil. But as Professor PLO Lumumba reminds us, this is not about faith. This is about power cloaked in religion. Lumumba dives deep into Nigeria's historical fractures, the so-called Muslim North and Christian South, a setup the colonizers engineered. Then came Boko Haram, born from poverty, corruption, and manipulation. And just like that, the narrative was hijacked. Islam versus Christianity.
The situation in Nigeria must be understood from a historical context. And that history gives you a Nigeria which, when the North and the South came together, there was what could be described as the Muslim North, and for want of a better term, the Christian South, or largely Christian South. But remember, there are also other African religions, but that is the preferred definition. With the consequence that Nigeria has always had tension of one kind or another, the tension that led to the civil war in Biafra, which was not founded on Christianity at all, and of course the many coups d'etats that saw at that time in the 1960 of the killing of people like Ahmadu Bello from the north and the imposition of the military administration. But to come to more recent history is that there are elements within Nigeria in the north, and this came to the fore in the year 2009 with the formation of what is now popularly known as Boko Haram by Yusuf Mahmoud. When Yusuf Mahmoud formed Boko Haram at that time, there were a number of things that were defining the philosophy. And remember that the version of Islam that he propagated is Salafism. And Salafism is a sect of Sunni Muslim. And their argument was that they want to restore Nigeria to the original Islam as was practiced by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. When that happened in 2009, of course, Muhammad Yusuf was arrested. And when he was arrested and he died in jail, he became a martyr. And that changed the complexion of Boko Haram, which means Western education is bad, if you are to render it in simplistic terms. And the whole idea, and this is what they were selling at that time, what is the value of this education where you get education, but there are no jobs, there are no opportunities, and that appealed to very many young people in northern Nigeria. And that is why it is characterized as Muslims rising against Christians.
But Lumumba reminds us even Muslims were victims. So when Trump talks about protecting Christians, he's not protecting lives. He's protecting the Western narrative that fuels division and domination.
So what do we have? in the popular media, Muslims or Muslim organizations are killing Christians. What is the reaction from different people? Let us resist them. Let us resist what has been described in different quarters as the Arabization and Islamization of Africa. And this is the context in which we now find Nigeria being a point of reference from no lesser space than the United States of America. The United States of America, through the President Donald Trump, is saying, if Nigeria cannot protect Christians, we are going to move in viciously, and we are going to do so to protect Christians. And I think Trump is being advised that the Nigerian government is working softly on this issue because President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a Muslim, because Vice President Shetima is also a Muslim, and that if it were different, they would behave differently. But from where I sit, that is not necessarily the case. And these are individuals who are known to me. My own view is that you are dealing with an organization which is out of control, which is engaged in unconventional warfare, and is not going to be easy to defeat them, because they are not your regular army wearing army uniform. They are not arranged and organized in battalions and brigades. They could be somebody who is walking in the street and propagating their agenda. They hit when you don't expect, and they hit what you don't expect. Even when you say you are going to bomb them, who are you going to bomb? Where? In which location are they crowded that you'll bomb them and finish them? These are the questions must be called into question. And you can see and hear the reaction of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and by extension the Nigerian government. They reacted by saying they welcome the United States of America to help them fight Boko Haram.
Now, here's where it gets surgical. Lumumba says Trump's message isn't just for Nigeria, it's for his American evangelical base. He's telling them, I'm the new crusader, the defender of Christianity in a world where Islam is on the rise. But make no mistake, this ain't about salvation, it's about strategy, about showing the world that America, under Trump, will act as judge, jury, and war machine, wherever oil and opportunity lie.
That is the situation as it is. What is happening diplomatically, we may not know. But you've seen a world where there is a new hegemon who believes they are going to fight for Christianity anywhere and everywhere. That is the situation as it is now. You know, when we talk about Nigeria and we talk about the pronouncement of President Trump, many things come to mind. Number one, why is Trump saying what he's saying? Is he saying it for Christian domestic consumption? Is he the latter-day defender of Christianity? And what I'm saying is a matter of speculation, and I think he's addressing many audiences. Remember, he rode on the crest of evangelical Christians to become the president for what is now called Trump 2. And he's telling them, in this day and age, when Christianity is on the decline and Islam is on the ascendance, I am the leader of what can be described as Christianity. And when Christianity is addressed anywhere in the world or is threatened anywhere in the world, I'll be that leader in the world who will come out and defend Christianity. That is to the American audience. To the Nigerian audience, he's also saying, oh, you cannot be protected by your administration. I'm the leader of the free world. This free world, which was created by Christendom, is under threat. And I am that leader who knows no boundaries. I'm that leader who is going to be your latter-day savior I'm that leader who is going to come and do what is necessary in order to protect you. I am the peacemaker. Remember that President Trump is on record as saying that he is the one who deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. I'm God's gift to the world. I run around the world and do only one thing, make peace. You saw me making it in Gaza. You see me trying to make it in Ukraine. You see me everywhere. You see making peace between Thailand and Cambodia. I am that person. But I am doing it because of a Christian ethic. That is my interpretation of what President Trump is trying to do. The other thing that he's trying to do is to send a message to the emerging powers or other powers in the world. He's sending a message to China, sending a message to Russia, sending a message to the BRICS world. Remember, you may make a claim to New World Order, but from where I sit, there is only one order, and that order is the order as dictated by the United States of America.
And the same script plays out in Venezuela. Trump calls Maduro a drug lord, stations the CIA in the Caribbean, and suddenly, democracy means do what America says or get bombed. Lumumba calls it gunboat diplomacy. Same strategy, different continent. They call it liberation. We call it what it is, modern imperialism wearing a moral mask.
So democracy is also very nuanced. It has different meanings. It means that if you are a little country, democracy means doing what America wants you to do. That is what democracy means, what Europe wants you to do. When they blow the whistle, you wag your tail. Then you are a Democrat. Then you'll begin to get awards. Then you'll be invited to the Oval Office and possibly be made to sit and appear to sign. Then you'll have a press conference with the President of the United States of America. You'll be interviewed by Fox. Then you become a hero. That is democracy a la Trump. What is happening in the Caribbean is almost unprecedented. When you see a power such as the United States of America very undiplomatically saying, one, that we have operationalized CIA within Venezuela. We have moved our military assets in the Caribbean Sea. Without being paranoid, what is being projected and telegraphed is that we are ready to put boots on the ground. And the reason why we actually were allowing the CIA to operate is to tell us where to hit. So that before we get boots on the ground, we soften the ground. And it is very easy in a country that is divided to create an environment where the leader runs away. Because once you create an environment that makes it unsafe for Maduro and the people around him to feel uncomfortable, then they run away. And when they run away, then there is a vacuum. And once there is a vacuum, then America can fill it with whoever you want. Remember, at one time, there was even an attempt at creating a government in exile. So you can very quickly have Maduro out and bring in people to say, you are now the ones that are going to be in charge of Venezuela. And once you are in charge of Venezuela, the great old America will give you the necessary support as you go through transition. I'm not saying that that is what will be the case, but these are scenarios that I believe everybody, even in Caracas, must be thinking about the possibilities. And even those who say that they are supporting Venezuela would not want to get into that space, because the nature of these wars is that if you get into those spaces, you are stuck in mud for a long time. Who wants to be stuck in mud? You know, over the years, there have been allegations that many of these organizations that became monsters were financed by people who thought they could use them. So when you hear people saying that certain Western agencies financed Osama bin Laden in his early days, financed Boko Haram, financed all these organizations, we must be very slow to say they don't. We must be very slow, because the way the world works is that things are more complicated than we see on the surface. But as Frankenstein once said, you create a monster and then you lose control of the monsters. So they start as little embryos. Once they become monsters, then they acquire a life of their own, and you can no longer control them. They metastasize and acquire different life, different ideologues. So it is quite possible that is happening, and indeed has happened before. And many times we know that fifth columnists are introduced, particularly by Western intelligence agencies, for purposes of torpedoing that which is good in different parts of the world. So you never know. Never be quick to say it is not happening. Be very slow in the knowledge that the imperialist works in very unique ways. You know, when you talk about drug trafficking in Latin America, somebody posed a very interesting question. He says, but why don't you persuade Americans not to take drugs? Of course, that is an interesting response to it. But the other thing is that the demand and supply side is there are things that are tied in the hip like Siamese twins. But the reality is that these cartels are to be found in Mexico, the Escobars of this world, the bigger people in Colombia, in Mexico, in Venezuela, as we know. And the reality is that Venezuela is a soft target. Is a soft target because we now know beyond peradventure that some of the people whose boats have been struck are fisher people. They are not drug dealers. And that this extrajudicial killing is without basis. What one would do in ordinary circumstances, given the Americans' dominance on the sea, is to arrest these individuals. You arrest them and bring them to the United States of America for purpose of being tried. But in the case of Venezuela, I think a number of things are designed to be achieved. That you have Maduro here, who is a leftist and is seen not to be playing ball with the United States of America. You have Lula in Brazil, who is at the heart of BRICS, which is trying to impact negatively the dollar and American economic hegemony. So how do we start? By sending a clear message to everybody in Latin America. If you don't play ball, we are going to deal with you with the way we dealt with Venezuela. And remember, the oil deposits in Venezuela and the geographical location in Venezuela is also very important from a geostrategic standpoint. Therefore, America would want to see some kind of lapdog, some kind of poodle of leadership in Venezuela, to have comfort that that area, and by extension the Caribbean, is under their control. And that is why I think the United States of America, particularly during the Trump administration, is behaving the manner in which it is behaving. And when Trump says, make America great again, and is telling the world we are looking inward, I think there is also a sense in which he wants to project America as the dominant power. And if you don't restrict my examples in thinking about this issue, look at their recent statement in the Asian meeting. He's telling the Asian, make sure that China does not dominate. And that message is reverberating. Look at the message to Milei. We are going to give you money in Argentina, but only if you elect Milei or people related to him. So America is saying we want to occupy our immediate war post-1945 position in which we tell the world what is good for the world. And the Venezuelans of this world are the examples that will be used, that if you don't follow that script, then we destroy you. So elect leaders who know what to do, leaders who respect and obey instructions unquestioningly. That is, I think, the message that is being sent by the current administration in the United States of America. Today, the world is very complicated, and we are in a space which is with precedent. I remember in the 1960s when there were military coups d'etats in Latin America, later in Africa. It was very easy when you are talking about leadership to talk about this is dictatorship and this is not dictatorship. And during that period, there was the tendency when coups d'etats were manufactured from the West, even if one was dictatorial in their ways, it would be ignored. But today, dictatorship must be understood in the context of governance. And why are people governed the way they are? Europe and America wants to make us believe that dictatorship or democracy only exists, number one, where there are multi-party elections, number two, where there is a vibrant civil service, and number three, where the leaders accept to be criticized and all those things. That to them is what democracy is all about. And sometimes it is not about service delivery. There are countries that are now beginning to say that all government is in some way dictatorship. A dictatorship that we have allowed to be done in a constitutional manner. And I'm using the word dictatorship here very deliberately because governments are instituted amongst men to midwife delivery of services. And if we have a government that does this, you label it dictatorship all you want, but we accept it. You can see that in the case of Rwanda, for example. You talk to the ordinary Rwandese, they'll tell you, but they are delivering electricity. They are delivering water, they are delivering on education, so why are you calling them dictatorship? You see frequently now in the case of the Sahel nations, in Mali, in Niger and Burkina, the African Union has said that they acquired power through unconstitutional means, and they have been suspended from the African Union. But the people are saying, but they are delivering for us. There are difficulties, but we accept them. So I believe that the problem we have in the world today is that the West is still stuck in this superiority complex, which makes them think that they are the ones who ought to tell the world what the world ought to do. You hear, for example, the West saying that China is a dictatorship. But the Chinese are saying this is democracy with a Chinese character. They are saying Russia is a dictatorship, but the Russians are saying this is our style. We have done it for many years. And the people, the critical masses of the people accept it as our way. Why do you want us to wear dresses which you've made for us which don't fit us? So the debate is still on, but I hold the view that governance is something that must be culturally specific and must be informed by the realities of a nation, and that the people in that nation must have an input on how they are governed to ensure that they reap the dividends of their taxes and their efforts. And perhaps the time is now to re-examine some of these terminologies which were fostered on us by the West. In the case of Africa, as I've always said, that the time is now for Africans to rethink and to reimagine governance. That is not to say that we go back to the old ways. No, we re-examine, we adopt and adapt as defined by circumstances.
And finally, Lumumba hits the nail on the head. The West keeps defining democracy for everyone else, as if Africans, Asians, and Latin Americans can't define their own governance. But the world is changing. From Niger to Venezuela, people are realizing democracy doesn't mean obey the West. It means serve your people. That's the new fight, not between Christians and Muslims, but between self-determination and domination. So, when Trump says he's protecting Christians, remember, every empire uses faith to hide its fangs. The question is, will Africa keep falling for it? This is Black News 360, where we decode power, race, and propaganda. I'm Mr. Black. Stay woke, stay wise, and don't let the headlines think for you.